the single biggest impact on how a person experiences the culture of an organization is not the values, it's not the handbook, it's their manager. It's how their manager displays those values and that culture every day.
Welcome to the Workmatters Podcast, where you will hear real-life stories from everyday people in different roles and industries share the challenges of practically integrating their faith and work. Each week together, we'll wrestle over what God is doing in us and with us while we work. So let's dive in. Well, Darrel and I are pumped to have a good friend of ours and a great friend to Workmatters, a champion of Workmatters on the podcast today, Steve Blair. Steve, great to have you on the Workmatters Podcast.
Thank you, Brandon. I'm excited to be here hanging out with my friends.
Well, good. We are too. And let me tell you about Steve. Steve is currently the Chief People Officer at Fulcrum Collective. He's had over 25 years of leadership experience in the consumer packaged goods industry, building business plans for the world's largest retailers with Procter Gamble, Ghirardelli Chocolate, and Harvey Group. Steve is passionate about helping people love their work and guiding founders and leaders to create work that is worthy of loving. Steve has faithfully served as chairman of the board of Workmatters for nearly 10 years and has blessed thousands of people with his leadership and his wit as the famous emcee of the Workmatters conference, which he killed this last year. Steve is married to Ashley, and they have an amazing and brilliant and wonderful daughter, Kennedy. Did I leave anything out, or do you want to add anything to that?
Man, I think you nailed it. Awesome. You nailed it. And you got Kennedy's description on the money, too. She is incredible.
Yeah, she's incredible. Yeah.
Well, we like to talk about faith and we like to talk about work. So let's start with the faith part. Tell our listeners how your journey of faith began and some of the major turning points in that.
Yeah, I think my journey began exactly how everyone's does, at a Petra concert in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I grew up in a traditional, nuclear family, mom and dad, older brother, and we went to church every Sunday and youth group every Wednesday. And I was 10 years old in about 81, 82, and the youth group took a road trip to Tulsa for a Petra concert. And I love music. You guys know that about me. I can't play an instrument. I can't sing a lick, but I love the power of music and what it can do to people. And I just I distinctly remember being in the upper deck at what is now, I think, called BOK Center or something. And they did an altar call. And I headed down, and my youth leader was like, where are you going? You're 10. Like, somebody needs to go with him. But it was that night that I felt a stirring to just to at that point live with a different purpose in mind. Mm-hmm. And I will admit that I had what I would consider to be intentional faith throughout junior high, high school, college. Did not always live that way. But it all started at that concert. And I would say from that point on, it was a pretty typical, faith was a part of my life, but it was a compartmentalized part of my life. I tried to be the same person at school and at home, but boy, Wednesday nights and Sunday mornings were, that was when the real devotion happened and the real worship happened. And it was interesting. I just thought that was what everybody does, And I'd been working for P&G for a couple of years and had an opportunity to move to Charlotte, and was asked to lead a team of veteran salespeople in a town I'd never lived in. And I was young and inexperienced, and they knew it. And so I'll never forget our first kind of sub-team meeting where I was leading, and I said, I'm going to do a team building icebreaker, and I had everybody go around the room and say really kind of the three top priorities in your life. And I went last, and there were 5 people in the room, and 4 of them listed faith as one of their top 3 priorities in life. One of us didn't. And it was me. Mm-hmm. Because at that point, I didn't know that faith was welcome at work. I didn't think it was not allowed, but it just wasn't a part of your work being, And I remember distinctly being convicted that like, I feel that way, but I didn't say that because I didn't think I was supposed to say that. And I'm clearly working with people that do work differently than I do. And so that was a formative relationship. I was there for about 2.5, 3 years. Shout out Jerry Grubb and Kim Pinkstaff. But then got the call to come to the Walmart team in 1999. And when I moved here, faith at work was a whole nother thing. It was a part of your life. It was a part of your work. We had Bible study on Wednesday mornings in the office, which was just groundbreaking back then.
Sure.
And that's when I really felt the connection between, okay, it isn't just me being authentic by allowing my faith to show up at work. There's an actual connection between my faith and how I work and how I show up to meetings and how I interact with people and build relationships. So at that point, it really went from being a part of who I am to being a real central theme of my personality and my character was trying to bring that to work every day.
Yeah.
Now that I knew I could.
So back in Charlotte and then in Walmart, you just mentioned 2 people. Shout out to them.
Yep.
And then you're back at Walmart. Somebody had to lead that Bible study. I'm curious, how did the two people you just mentioned and whoever it was at Walmart, how did they approach you, or how did they invite you into a new way of looking at work and faith? What did that, like, go back to that place where you're in the office.
Yeah.
You met these people, they're doing it differently. You get to Walmart, there's a Bible study. You just walk in or somebody was inviting to you.
Yeah.
What was that?
Yeah, I would say different between Charlotte and P&G for sure. Charlotte, we were having a meeting and it was my first meeting to kick off, and I owned the agenda. And right out of the gate, 4 of the 5 people in the room talked about their faith in a meeting at 1:00 in the afternoon. And that really struck me, not only that they were doing that, but that I was the only one that didn't, even though I felt it.
Sure.
Like it was a part of me, but I just didn't feel like I was, allowed to bring that to work with me.
But you had permission for that to be a full part of your life, even at the workplace.
Yeah. And the fact that it was the entire team said that was one of their top 3. Then I moved to Northwest Arkansas, and at P&G, the P&G team here in town is a very special place. The people they bring are the best of the best in their whole company. They come down sometimes for rotations, so you get new people every couple of years. And there was a core group of men in that office that were just authentic. And because the office did a lot of things together socially outside of work, we'd get to know each other on a personal level really fast. And so Tom McDonald, Tom Muccio, John Brazzi, they were in this Wednesday morning, or actually it was a Tuesday morning group. They invited me because that's what you do. It's a very close-knit team. And they invited me, and I was, of course, coming off of this experience in Charlotte where I was starting to think, okay, that part of me can come to work. And then, wait, we're having it in the office? Now, granted, it was 6:30 in the morning. It was before everybody showed up. But it was those 2 are distinct kind of pages, not even chapters, but pages in the book of opening my eyes to it and then feeling it be like a real part of my work existence.
Wow.
That's cool. Was that.
It's thrilling to hear stories from that era of Northwest Arkansas, which is before my time, but to hear how God was up to something in multiple people. And that's kind of the birth of Workmatters. So I know there's a story of your involvement with, was that, help connect the timeline, and how did you get involved with us?
Yeah, I will tell you exactly. So I moved in 99, started doing the Bible study in the office about that time. And we moved away twice since then and have come back both times. So this is our 3rd and final trip to Northwest Arkansas. But it wasn't until January 27th of 2008.
Okay.
I was sitting at my desk on Joyce Boulevard there in Fayetteville, and it was about 6:15 in the morning, because back then that's what I did. And I was searching my emails for an email from my buyer at the time because she was trying to back out of a commitment. And so I was searching my spam folder, my junk, everywhere I could find this email. And I come across an email in my junk folder from Workmatters. And I remember I went to Central United Methodist in Fayetteville, and that's where it was started. And so there was a bit of a known brand, and David Roth was the guy that started it, and he was kind of a known brand. And I didn't know him well at the time. And I'm see this email, and it's an invitation to an event called 8 to 5, where David was speaking about work-life balance. And I noticed that it started at 6:30 that morning, and it was at North Star's original office, which was 2 blocks down the street. And my initial thought was, I can't go to that. It's during the middle of the workday. And then I realized I could go to that and come back and still be the first one in the office. So I went down the street, and it's a whole nother story of what happened over the next 48 hours of that event. But needless to say, I was changed, and I was introduced to Workmatters, and Workmatters was rolling out a new ministry called the Joseph Project that morning, because in 2008, there was a lot of layoffs going on, and I was passionate about people and passionate about recruiting, and so I raised my hand and said, I'd like to help with this Joseph Project any way I can, and so that's when it started, was where I finally gave myself permission to, during the workday, go to this event from this organization that I'd heard a lot about, and the organization had a great reputation. I just hadn't crossed my path otherwise until that point.
Wow. I love that.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad you found that junk mail.
Well, and the reason that the date rings a bell is because I have a story I tell about that 48 hours where I met Larry Templeton for the first time. There was a lot of things that happened in mine and Ashley's life over the next 48 hours that were absolute God things piled on top of one another, on top of one another, on top of one another. And so I remember that day distinctly. Yeah. That was when the Workmatters commitment started for me, was that 8 to 5 talk on work-life balance.
Wow. So that was 2008. You've journeyed with Workmatters along the way. You became chairman of the board, and you've been leading, and you hired me, and thank you so much for doing that. And
one of my more brilliant decisions.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Well, you hired me too.
Yeah. Oh, did you really? Oh, that's another brilliant decision. Yes. Okay.
No.
So
lots of great talent on that team that I've had a chance to be a part of.
So over the years of working with Workmatters and being on the team and chairing, I'm curious, how has your approach to work changed? What has been a new way that you've looked at work, maybe that you've approached work? Like, talk about that over these years.
Yeah, I would say, one of the themes that has become important to me over my, you look back on your career to try to explain decisions that you made along the way, and you look brilliant now, but back then it was just a series of decisions that you didn't know were connected. And one of the themes is just this idea of authenticity, of not being a different person at work than I am at home or on the weekends. And honestly, I would say through the Workmatters organization, the incredible events that y'all have done, the incredible small group studies y'all have published, it was through those interactions and the relationships that came with all of those interactions where I just built up this confidence to just be me. And part of me is my faith. And it was just, I really think that a thread through that is the permission to be authentically me and then lead in a way that is hopefully noticed and felt by those around me, where I'm not necessarily quoting scripture or preaching the gospel, but I am carrying myself and leading in a way that I would hope people might someday stop and ask, man, what is it about his style or his leadership, approach that feels authentic? And I would want the answer to be, well, he's a man of faith and he brings that to work with him. And he started to put frameworks into place to make decisions that anchor in his values that are rooted in his faith. And so I'm not sure if that answers the question, but that specifically the authenticity piece feels directly tied to the content y'all were putting out and the experiences that y'all were curating for leaders like me to not apologize and to really be able to process, okay, I know that Bible story, or I know that leadership principle from Andy Stanley or John Maxwell or whoever. Let me apply that to my team meeting on Tuesday. And that flywheel just starts, at least for me, it just started turning.
Yeah. I'm curious, Darrel, what you heard in that when he was talking.
It's just who I know you to be. So, when I think of you, now, to get an email or a message to see somebody in HR is probably not something our listeners look forward to.
Oh, come on. The highlight of the day.
But every encounter with you is different than what goes through your mind when you get that message. And so I was just thinking about, we talk a lot about Ephesians 2:10 and the works God has prepared for you. And man, that's just, do you ever just sit back and think how in line things are with being a people officer and who God made you to be, or what? I'm just curious of your reflections just on that whole miraculous thing.
Well, I mentioned it earlier. People, I see it happen. People will ask, "Man, you've got the pretty intentional story. Look at all the things. You must have had a really good plan." And of course, on podcasts, you say, "Well, yeah, it was a great plan, and it went exactly as I planned." And
not on this podcast.
But I will tell you, I've spent a lot of time trying to dissect what already happened in my life to try and make sense of what I should be doing next, right? And at my age, there isn't much I should be planning to do next, but I am, because I look back on all of the series of decisions I made, whether it was to leave P&G and go to work for Ghirardelli or join Harvest Group in my first official people and culture job. I had always been a hobby up until then. I was in sales up until then. But when I look back and try to make sense of all of the decisions, they are all around this central theme of helping people love the gift that God gave us, which is work and gifts. And if I can somehow piece those two things together for people, whether it's somebody who's between jobs and I'm trying to help them strategize a job search, or I'm recruiting someone into the company, or I'm coaching a young leader in the organization. If I can help them understand God gave us work, Genesis 2:15, he gave us work, and then he gave us gifts that we are to use in that service. If I can help people understand the first one and put into practice the second one, and they both happen in your job every day, like that's truly unlocking all of us. Imagine if all of us were doing work we were uniquely designed to do, and we were doing it with the heart that it mattered for God in Colossians 3:23 with all of our heart. What an unlock that would be for people. And so, Darrel, that's a long way to say, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I can't believe I got here based on what felt like desperate decisions or disparate decisions along the way.
Yeah.
But every one of them built on the next one or the previous one to land where I'm getting to help people understand the gift and understand the calling and put them together. And it's just that it's an amazing thing to feel like I get to do that every day.
Wow.
And then I get to find a ministry whose sole mission is to help people in work, at work, and through work. Like what a deal, And Brandon, you asked about my connection to Workmatters. There is another component to that. We had a leader at P&G named Jim Lafferty, who spent most of his career overseas, but he was known for this talk he would give on leadership, on personal leadership and helping you kind of sort through things. And he had this challenge that rocked me to my core. And I argued with him. It was a 3-day training. I argued with him for the first 2 days and then finally conceded on the third day that he was right. But he says that, well, think about in your own lives right now, all the roles that you have in your life. And if we had a piece of paper and a pen and I gave you enough time, you could come up with probably 20, right? Father, son, brother, cousin, worker, volunteer, golfer, fisherman, handyman, like all of them. His big push was, you can only be excellent at 5 roles at a time. That doesn't mean that you never get to be the other 15, but you're just choosing not to be excellent in those other 15. Well, I made a decision back in probably 2011, 2012 to start devoting a lot of my energy into Work Matters because I did that exercise. And my 5 are, I'm a child of God, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a hopefully an influential leader in the people and culture space. That leaves 1. And I made the decision that I want my 1 to be Work Matters.
Wow.
Partly because I'm lazy, because it impacts the other 4, right? So when I was in college,
lazy,
I was a marketing major, but I wanted to graduate with a double major. Well, I made sure that my marketing electives were my management requireds and vice versa. So then I would graduate with 2 degrees.
There you go.
With the same amount of hours.
Yeah.
Same thing. I've got 4 priorities in my life. Work Matters is the multiplier of all 4 of them.
Wow.
And so I've just decided, and that's why I'm not involved in a significant way with other nonprofits, or, I mean, of course I give and attend and all those things, but I can't serve because I know I can't be excellent. And the other 4 things are my priority.
Yeah. Thank you for making Work Matters a priority. I don't think lazy. I think efficiency.
Efficiency,
smart, smart move. So in your role as Chief People Officer, what I love about your story is you went from my faith happens on Wednesdays and Sundays to my faith in my work and my life, that it's just as inseparable. It's just who I am. And then you create space as a Chief People Officer to allow the wholeness of people to come alive at their work in what you do and through your leadership. And so what does that look like in your organization? How do you lead people as a child of God in the space that you find yourself at Fulcrum right now? What does that look like?
I would say, and this isn't just me, I would say any person of faith or any person that has a North Star, whether it's your faith or other things, it's the alignment between who I am and who the company wants to be. And the way that plays out is values of an organization, right? So how my personal values line up with the company's values is how my faith, how I can help the organization experience that, what I'm feeling, which is that direct connection between my faith and my work, right?
Wow.
And so one of the things I've done in the 3 years I've been there is we needed to revisit our values. They were wonderful words. They were 25 years old. They meant a lot for a long time, but they weren't necessarily obviously connected to who the organization is today. And so I led the organization through a renewal effort to bring clarity to, okay, what are our true acted out in behaviors values that we have. Now, not all of them changed. Some of them tweaked a little bit. But the way it plays out, Brandon, is because I believe so strongly in the power of values being the driver or the lens through which you do work. Every decision that we make, I can completely release to the values lens and know that I'm going to make a decision that's consistent with the company. So to answer your question, people see us make decisions, hard decisions, easy decisions, decisions dealing with how we're going to lay out the office, decisions dealing with who we might have to part ways with. If I can put the lens of the values on that decision and feel like I'm making the right decision based on our 3 values of conviction, community, and customers, then that's all I can. They have to believe and trust that we're doing what we believe is the best thing. And so values is where that plays out for me so obviously in so many different ways. In how we handle compensation, how we handle performance, how we handle promotions, how we handle exits.
I love that.
It's that lens of values. And for me personally, they align with my personal values, and my personal values are rooted in my faith.
Wow.
I'm not having to preach at a team meeting for people to experience my faith. I'm having to make decisions through the lens of our values, and those reflect my personal values, which are rooted in my faith. It's I don't know the saying. It's tell people about the gospel, and hopefully you don't have to use words. Or what's the saying, Darrel? You're our chief spiritual formation officer.
Preach the gospel at all times, and when necessary, use words.
There we go.
Yeah.
I'd like to recognize and thank Simmons Foods, Inc. for being our exclusive sponsor for this season of the Workmatters Podcast. Their generosity is making this new season of meaningful content and inspiring guests possible. We hope people are encouraged to see work as a place where God shapes them more into His image, in their work, at their work, and through their work. Simmons Foods, Inc. is a family-owned and led company based in Siloam Springs, Arkansas, supplying poultry, pet, and animal nutrition products to customers in all 50 states and more than 40 countries around the world. Please visit simmonsfoods.com to learn more about our wonderful sponsor. Thank you. So, Steve, as a Chief People Officer, what's a way that you brought renewal into your company and into the role that you have, and taking your faith and your gifting to bring about something really, really cool for your company? What'd that look like?
Yeah, I will tell you, the opportunity I was provided with this particular organization, with Fulcrum, was really exciting to me because, I had done a lot of work with Harvest Group to help them scale quickly, building upon a healthy foundation. And this was an opportunity to come into an organization that was almost 30 years old, that had decades of incredible success, deep family office roots. The Whaley family owns the company, started the company, owns the company. But they were looking for me to come in and help them. Renewal is a great word that you mentioned, is to come in and reharness what made them so special for so long, capture that energy, and then take us forward. And so it was through the renewal of the values. I believe the company had 12 or 15, which was not a bad thing. It's just that's too many to run decision-making filters through, when I'm talking about what we talked about earlier about making decisions through values. So we coalesced around 3 that were kind of the main central themes. So I came to the team with, okay, here are the 3 new values that, by the way, I enrolled the whole team in that process. This was not the leadership team locking a door and all of a sudden there's white smoke coming out of the chimney and here are your new values. It was, we crowdsourced, what's it like to work here? What are the best things about working here? What do we do that's unique that other companies may not do for their customers? And then that's where we came up with our 3 values of conviction, community, and customers. And so that's one way that we've been able to bring, well, certainly my own faith, but many others' groundings in who they are, some of which are faith groundings of what's it mean to operate with conviction. Well, that's rooted in purpose, and that's rooted in character and belief. And what's it like to operate as a company in community together? Well, that means community like the outer community in the marketplace and in your neighborhoods, but it also means the 4 of us around a table at lunch. And then customers, why we're here is to serve customers. And it's our actual customers, or it could be our supply partners, or it could be other folks that are in our orbit, but it's that customer servant mindset. All of those are foundationally faith-driven principles.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to say that. We don't need to say that.
Right.
Because guess what? Not everyone is aligned with those. But they don't have to be aligned to the biblical theme. They need to be aligned to the value itself. And when you've got people that are on mission, aligned to values, it's pretty wild what can happen in an organization that already started with a deep heritage of caring for people, doing great work, excellent work. We just kind of harness that energy around the renewal of what is the essence of the values that we actually have and want to have in every interaction that we have.
I love that.
Yeah. One last question. I'm sure that this conversation about values and culture is really stirring some of our listeners, but they're sitting there thinking, I'm not the chief people officer. I have no positional authority, but I want to affect our culture in a positive way. What are 2 or 3 things they can do in their current role?
Yeah, I'm going to give you a couple of answers, and it might be role dependent, or at least maybe responsibility dependent. What everyone can do, and I love leading teams through this exercise, and hopefully we're making the assumption that the company is operating with a set of clear values.
Yes.
Right? If we're making that assumption, then great. I love helping people dial into the work that they do at their desk Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday morning, and then ask them for examples of how that value shows up in my work as a replenishment analyst. And so, and bonus points if you can tell me a story of how our value of community showed up on your desk Wednesday morning when you were doing your scorecard and you needed to build relationship with others to get the work done or whatever. But it's putting language and stories around every value can be found in every role. And it's when you have that conscious belief that my role as the accountant, what does conviction look like for an accountant? Okay, well, it's truth in numbers, it's accuracy of data, it's is having the principles in place to make good financial decisions and not put the company's finances in jeopardy by making bad decisions. Joy on my team and the HR team, what does it look like to live out our value of customers from an HR standpoint? Well, she can tell you 3 stories of how the work that she does every day has that mindset of customers in her work. So that's the first thing I would say is for anybody, look at your job. Bonus points, use your role description. Like get real granular and look through your role description and say, yep, our value of conviction right there. What's expected of me is to deliver on-time reports that are, error-free and by Monday mornings at 9:00. Well, if I commit to that, I'm going to do that. And I have conviction that those need to be accurate and correct. So every role can peel apart their responsibilities and find a connection to the values of the company. It's that connection where people feel like they belong when they feel like the work they do every day is tied to the values that the company believes drive decisions.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. Now, if it's role specific, if you're a manager of people, I want to offer up a way you can help influence the culture of your organization. And that is, it's really not hard. It's really not crazy. But when you see people, I'm going to stop there. When you see people, then when you know people, so it's one thing to see them when you walk by. Then if you can remember that they went to school at XYZ or that they're a single mom with 2 beautiful daughters that struggles to balance all the things. So see them, know them, meet them where they are. So understand what their goals are, what their challenges are. See them, know them, meet them where they are, challenge them. So put some accountability in their life and in their work. Celebrate them when things go well. Well, all the things I just mentioned are just aspects of being a good manager of people. but that impacts the culture. In fact, I would tell you the Gallup data says that the single biggest impact on how a person experiences the culture of an organization is not the values, it's not the handbook, it's their manager. It's how their manager displays those values and that culture every day. That is the biggest determinant of how a person experiences the actual culture, the lived experience of the policies, programs, norms, and behaviors of an organization.
Okay, Steve. So hang on. I think people need to take notes because those 5 things are very important and they change a culture. I mean, people long to be seen. They long to be known. They long to be celebrated. So if you're writing this down or you're taking a mental note and you're listening to this right now, see
them, which is, I mean, not everybody can say they do that on a regular basis. So all of these are challenging. I'm convicted about all of these every day, right? See them, know them, meet them where they are, challenge them, encourage, challenge, and then celebrate.
So see them, know them, meet them where they are, challenge them or encourage them.
Both,
and then celebrate them.
Yeah.
Right where you are. You can do that as a manager. You can do that. You can do that as a peer for a teammate. Absolutely. You can do that right where you are and make a difference right where you are. I love that. Steve.
Real quick, the last thing I would say is if you're a leader of an organization, if you're a member of the leadership team and you're setting pace and direction and all those things, the thing I have found to be the most consistently successful tool at moving a culture of an organization, whether it's moving it forward, healthy, or moving it in the direction you want to take it. It's a silly acronym, but it's WALA. WALA. Okay. And I always picture like a kid's birthday party magician, like voila. But here's what it means. The W is wonder. Like if you're a leader, genuinely wonder what it's like to work there. Genuinely wonder, how are we doing? Genuinely wonder, how is she doing in her job? Or how is that team doing? But you have to authentically wonder, care enough to be curious to wonder how things are going.
It's good.
The A, ask how things are going, right? So whether it's over coffee or in a survey, but ask the question, how is it going? How are you doing? How are we doing? But let that curiosity and wonder play out in action. Ask, okay, what do you think the L stands for? Listen.
Okay, listen. I was going to say love.
You've asked them. That's good too. You've asked them. The worst thing you can do if you can either ask them or not. The worst thing you can do is ask them and do nothing.
Yeah.
Ask them and then listen to what they say.
Yeah.
And the way that you show that you're listening is tell them what they told you. I'm a big fan of every time we get the whole company together, the week prior, I will have asked the question, essentially, how are we doing? Or how likely are you to recommend us as an employer? And then I debrief with the team. Here's what you told us anonymously in the survey. And then the last A may not be that crazy. Act on it. That does not mean that you fix everything they told you when you ask them how they're doing and listen to what they said, but act on something. And it's that flywheel of caring enough to wonder, asking, telling them what they told you by listening, and then doing something. You do that every quarter, you'll be shocked at the progress that a culture can make because leaders are being transparent, they're being vulnerable, they're listening, they're trying to improve the things that need to be improved. They're trying to double down on the things that are working. So if you're a leader, that's the tool I would give you to move your culture forward is wonder, ask, listen, and act.
I love
Voila.
that. Yeah. Voila. I love that. Steve, listening to your story, hearing how you answered these questions at the end and just the encouragement of people, how they can move culture right where they are with what they're doing. It's just, I look at that and I go, oh, okay. I see why God led you down the path he did to Work Matters and then here, because you live out Work Matters. I mean, you really do. in who we are and what we're championing. That God is at work in us, that God is at work at our work, and that God is at work through us to help bring about a good redemption and a renewal right where we are. And it's all about people.
Yeah.
Right. And it's about loving people
Man,
well. And you
I
embody
appreciate
that and you lead that so well. And I'm so thankful. And so I want to do one last thing for our listeners, because a lot of our listeners are your friends, your colleagues. They're listening to you right now. So they're going to get to know you even a little bit more with a couple of last questions.
Bring it on.
So I saw a list that you posted online. And I would like to figure out, and I would like us to guess which one of these is not true about you. Okay, I saw this list and I didn't know the answer. Okay, so here was the list I saw you put. You competed but didn't lose on a TV game show with your daughter. You shared a house address with Sam Walton in college, breakdanced on regional TV, wrote a book about company culture disasters, got your own city sidewalk named after me in your hometown, jumped out of a hot air balloon, got thrown out of a wedding reception that you were DJing. So which one of these, Darrel, do you think is not true about Steve?
Somebody read real deep in my LinkedIn profile.
I would believe all of them except the Sam Walton address.
Okay, that's your guess.
Which seems the most benign. But yeah,
Okay.
I would believe, I could see him doing all those other things.
My guess is you didn't jump out of a hot air balloon. So which of these is not true about you?
So 520 College Avenue in Columbia, Missouri is the address to the Beta Theta Pi house.
Okay.
Where Sam Walton was a member of Beta Theta Pi at Mizzou. Okay. I was a member of Beta Theta Pi at Mizzou. We both lived at 520 College Avenue.
All right. My youngest is a beta at the University of Arkansas.
Nice.
Yeah. So that was true. So that's true.
Yep.
Was I right?
What was yours?
I said that you have not jumped out of a hot air balloon.
Spring of 1992, I was in a class at Mizzou, and one of the assignments was to do something you never thought you would do before and then write about it. It was a creative writing class. And there was a company in St. Louis that was bungee jumping out of hot air balloons. And so I drove to Wentzville, Missouri, 4 o'clock in the morning, got harnessed up, went up in a hot air balloon, jumped out with a rubber band tied around my feet.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Okay, so which one of these is not true? Are we allowed to know?
Yeah, of
course. Or do people need to see?
Of course.
Well, which one is it?
I would love to write a book someday.
Okay.
I've never written a book.
Haven't written a book.
Everything else on that list is true.
Is true.
Wow.
All right, last one. Darrel and I, we have to know. Darrel, you came up with this. This is really good.
Yeah.
You're a DJ. You love to do it. What would be our walk-up song? Like, what would be a good walk-up song for him? And what would be a good walk-up song for me?
Man, here's the problem, Brandon. I don't enjoy country music, but your song has to be country. So whatever it is, to all the listeners out there, whatever country song is just in your face, country, boots, truck, like that's it. Like
that is true. I dressed up today for you without the boots. I did this for you today. I would love to be in my boots and cap and my jeans right now. It's so true. What about Darrel?
Darrel, this is so deep.
I span so many decades. That's the hard part.
Oh gosh, let me think about this. Man, I'm fighting the urge to be super creative. And that's not going to do well on the podcast.
It's not a Petra song.
Well, Lift Him Up could be. Man, I've never been stumped like this.
That's okay.
Here's what's crazy. In every interview I've ever done in the last 15 years, I ask candidates as the final question of the interview, what is your walk-up song?
Uh-huh.
And the reason I do that is because we use them at the company. So when we introduce somebody or they come up to accept an award, we play their walk-up song. Man, Darrel, this is going to sound nuts, but like, it's not a high energy song, but like, oh no. Is it Forrest Frank?
Mm-hmm.
Celebrations?
Okay.
I think of you celebrating all that God does in people, in events, in places.
Thanks.
And I was just recently turned on to Forrest Frank.
Well, I received that well. Thank you.
I love that. I love that. Steve, thanks for being on the Workmatters podcast. If people want to get to know you a little more, want to reach out to you, where can they find you?
LinkedIn is by far the most consistent place. I'll check.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I'm a sucker for a good coffee conversation. Even though I don't drink coffee, I love it. So
Awesome.
Please reach out. Let's go
Reach
get
out
together.
to Steve and find him on LinkedIn. Steve, thanks so much for being on the Workmatters podcast. This is great.
Thanks, Brandon. Thanks, Darrel.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining the Workmatters podcast. Make sure you subscribe to get notifications when we launch new episodes. Start living out your faith through your work in practical ways by starting the Workmatters Institute online today. You can do this and learn more about upcoming forums, webinars, and conferences by visiting workmatters.org.